Hello Flight Sim fans and welcome to the Practically Geek channel. In today's video I'm delighted to bring you this first look at Sandtoft Airfield by Perseverance Scenery. I've also got something a bit new and different for the channel later in the video, and that's a Q&A with the man behind Perseverance Scenery. Sandtoft Airfield Echo Golf Charlie Foxtrot is located in the hamlet of Sandtoft in Doncaster and was opened in 1944 as a satellite for number 11 base RAF Lindholm. Nowadays, Sandtoft Aerodrome has a CAA ordinary license that allows flights for public transport of passengers or for flying instruction, most notably the Yorkshire Aero Club, who has a satellite office here. My first flight into Sandtoft in the simulator was in this Piper PA-38, and my first look at some of the surrounding detail that Liam has crafted into his scenery. It was great to see the custom buildings on approach into runway 23, the Caswick and Woolers security buildings, both modelled to a really nice standard, along with detailed fencing, signposts and cars to really up the level of immersion. Touching down on the runway, I get my first glimpse of the apron and the airside structures like the hangars, the porter cabins and the on-site Happy Cafe. After landing my aircraft, I jumped out and started to explore with the drone camera. I was delighted to see the approach into runway 05 at the other end of the airfield has also been given a facelift. The E. Park & Sons Limited warehouse and a good stretch of Epworth Road have all been added into the scenery with great care and detail. The cars scattered around the airfield are incredible. The models used are some, if not the best I've seen in a flight sim add-on scenery, especially at night with those lovely head and tail lights. Signage around the aerodrome is also very well done, with crisp textures and authentic graphics to add even more realism to the scenery. The porter cabins next to the main hangar look weathered and used. The one on the right has a small explorable interior to it, complete with a desk and even some stationery, as well as what looks like a study room for PPL training. Outside we have a plane spotter with his camera, and a mechanic working on a Cessna with his tools. The people models are very well detailed and definitely add more immersion to the scenery. Alongside the porter cabins we have the Happy Cafe, which has been recreated with amazing detail, the exterior and interior resembling the building found at the airfield. It is worth mentioning at this point that Sandtoft is fully working and performs very well on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, but Perseverance Scenery will be giving the airfield updates as it is still in development, one area being upstairs to the cafe, which is actually an Airbnb. Speaking of the cafe, the interior modelling is just stunning. The signs, chairs, tables and even donuts are placed authentically. The pictures on the wall are placed exactly as they are in the real Happy Cafe. I mean, come on, have you ever seen a scenery add-on where the appliances are actually plugged into the wall? Outside the cafe we have a playground which again looks like its real life counterpart with some detailed static people to make the area feel a bit more alive. So, as well as the first look at Sandtoft Airfield, I've also been lucky enough to chat with Liam, the man behind Perseverance Scenery, and ask him some questions about this Microsoft Flight Simulator add-on. Hello Liam, great to have you on the channel.
Oh, it's brilliant to join you.
So, first of all, why Sandtoft Airfield? What was the inspiration to enhance this particular aerodrome?
So it's actually quite a story. So when I started my aviation quite a few years ago now, I started at Doncaster Sheffield Airport and I did a bit of flying around there, and then I got moved to Sandtoft. So I started doing my early lessons here. I did notice there was no updated scenery. For example, you could get some on flightsim.to, very, very good basic sceneries, but there were nothing to the level that I wanted. I wanted something that felt real. As you've seen some sceneries out there, there's some really really good sceneries. So I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm not a big time developer. I just wanted to give it a go, and I just learned it all myself and then built it. So you go, Sandtoft Airfield.
So my virtual tour around the airfield, I am super impressive. The detail, the quality of it, you've crammed into the scenery. Did you do any visits, on-site visits to obtain reference photos at all?
So obviously it's difficult for a small time developer to get visits and stuff. So it was a bit tricky at first. So I turned up to Sandtoft. It was a funny story actually. I turned up to Sandtoft unannounced, and I spoke to there's a mechanic there,
Yep.
and I just randomly approached him and I said to him, I am living for Perseverance Senior Developers. I'm wanting to 3D create this airport and 3D render it. Do you want to work together and see how we can do it? And he looked at me like, what's flight sim? And he just explains. And obviously, when he realised when I actually did the scenery and completed it, it was like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, it was a bit difficult because there was two different areas. So as you can see, there was the airfield and there was the cafe. Now, even though they're on the same site, I had to get two different sort of permissions, and obviously a lot of days there. So just to try and cut it a bit shorter, I did about 3 or 4 days down there taking photos, and there's still more work to be done.
As I say, mate, really, really detailed. And I think when people see or would have seen some of the interior in the preview beforehand, they'll realize how much work has got into it. So kind of run us through, not in too much detail, but what the project is like to kind of start. And I know you mentioned going to the airport, going to the airfield itself, but what it's like to start building it from models, putting it into the simulator.
So scenery development, to try and keep it simple, it can only be as complex as you make it. For example, um, uh, when you start with a blank canvas, and obviously you've got ground levels, and obviously the new sim, this specific one was quite difficult to get in compared to 2020. Once you start adding the detail, you get the feel of the airfield, and when you get there, you get the pictures, and you think, how am I going to build this? How do I put it together? But once you get one object in, and the second object, and the third, and the fourth, and so on, once the detail's there, you get the feel of it, and this is the outcome of it.
Yeah.
And I think for the complex part is it's learning. It's a massive learning curve on how the flight sim from 2020 to 2024. There's a big gap in between how does that object go in, how does that, and without again going into too much detail, it's about LODs. It's all about level of detail. So it's understanding how far it'll range and stuff. I broke my computer. Oh, sorry, I didn't break it. I had an issue with the i9 1400K issue where the CPUs was actually overheating and melting the silicon, and I wasn't aware of that. And obviously, I went into panic mode and formatted the hard drives and thinking my hard drives, and actually lost the 2020 version of Sandtoft. That's why it's not been updated, that one,
No, right.
which is sad. The 2024 version was actually a complete rebuild, so I was starting again.
Wow.
Apart from I had the experience of being at that airfield and the knowledge of it, I knew how to put it back together. So I'm thinking I'm going to put this together, but I want it to be better, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And when I look round, it just I think the biggest change that I found in 2024 was the LOD system. The reason why I wanted to keep in that detail is because when you're flying around and you're looking around, you need to keep that airfield. And we've been a small airfield, you can get away around the LOD system, whereas on a big airport, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's a good point. You're obviously doing quite a lot of circuits and obviously touch and goes in smaller general aviation aircraft. So you definitely, and you're doing obviously a lot of visual flying as well. So it would make sense. That's a really good point. So yeah, Liam, as I mentioned before, super impressed with the scenery, fantastic, really detailed. But in the scenery itself, what are the particular aspects? So things around the scenery that you really think, wow, I made that, and you're really happy with.
Yeah, so obviously as an all, I think it's I'm impressed with it all. But in the question, obviously, you went on about what specific areas. So um, I think the proudest area has got to be this cafe because it's something that I've built. For example, the benches, the park, everything's all been hand built by myself. I think that is the sense of achievement. There's a couple of models like the cars. Obviously, that takes extreme skill. I've had to try and find these cars to buy these cars, and to try and bring them into the sim was a complete challenge. And obviously, to get these sort of stuff in, it does take time. For example, that you'll see there's actually a VW car in there
Yep.
that took me 6 hours to get into the sim from
Wow.
actually getting it.
Wow, incredible.
Um,
So yeah, there has been a lot of challenges as well. Was there a particular massive challenge? You mentioned the putting the cars in, but was there anything that was a bit more like pulled your hair out moment?
yeah, as obviously I've mentioned
Yeah,
before around this area. So obviously you've got your stones and stuff. That took some. I'd like to say it took me about 4 or 5 hours actually making that.
yeah,
I had to sketch it in, so that basically just a top-down view and just do it in Blender that way because the sim doesn't like multiple objects together. It dislinks. But going by pulling my hair out was ground textures.
right.
It's trying to get it to look real, but trying to not make it look fake was a massive challenge for me. Here was a massive issue. For example, this is a pebbled area, and I couldn't do a full big size like that full of pebbles. It killed it. I
Yeah,
even used an effect called ghosting, and that is where there's only one model and the rest of them are fake. So even though it looks genuine, it doesn't use extra resources. But for some reason, even though it didn't use extra memory, it still had to work out. So there's still an input where you think, hang on, it's going to run it. Computer's like, no, it reverses
of
it and
course,
says
yeah.
it won't do it.
I
Yeah.
mean that obviously even then it looks spot on. It's convincing. So, with all that being said, Liam, where can people find your scenery um, and let them know a price? So, where can they find your scenery?
So right now it is exclusively to Sim Market. I am trying to get elsewhere, but obviously I'm just waiting to be accepted as a new developer. But you can find it on Sim Market. It is for I find it a reasonable price. So we get a price guide given. So it's 13.32, including VAT. I think it was £1 more than the last one, but obviously that's down to so you've got your 30% commission, what we pay, your 20% tax. So there's not a massive profit as a developer, but let's say as I mentioned to Brian before, I'm not in it for profit. It's all about quality for me. So even if I get a penny for it, so I am gonna break that. I am gonna do a flash sale, so I'm gonna drop it down. Um, we have to keep it at some sort of fees because I am going to be open about this. When you do sell things, it's a business, and even though I tend to be more free, so as a successful business, I don't think I would work. But as a developer, I've also got to respect that sim market needs to, there's fees that they have to pay. So I've got to respect that. I can't just drop it down free.
That's perfect, mate, and obviously very generous on your behalf. Like you're saying, it is a passion project. You've spent time going there to visit, and obviously getting reference photos and stuff. So we fully appreciate that. What we'll do is I'll pop it into the link, and I will update the video when any sale goes live, and make sure people are seeing that as well. And obviously, if you let me know, I can promote that through um, Discord and social media as well. So, what is, if anything, if you can share with us, what's next for Perseverance? Have you got any plans to go further afield? Are you sticking with the UK, or are we going to head off to somewhere more tropical?
I'm working on Diddley Swat Farm. Some of you guys might know Jeremy Clarkson. His farm, I'm doing it so it's one that you can. I like to do sceneries where, which in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, you can actually get out your aircraft and walk around. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to do different areas like this. So there's a couple. I'm also working on one in Disney K. That's actually one that I didn't mention to Brian. I've kind of just dropped it there.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so I am working one. it's in the Caribbean. So I'm working all over the place. So as a sole developer, I feel like that I've got a lot of work on, but I'm not shy from picking up extra projects.
Absolutely, mate. And I think if this one's anything to go by, I think Diddley Swat's going to be a real hit. There's a lot of Clarkson fans, and I think, like you said, the fact that in 2024 we can grab a helicopter, we can land in a field, we can get out, we can have a good look around. I think that's going to be a really fun scenery to explore. So, Liam, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for this opportunity and coming on to the channel and doing this Q&A with me. I wish you all the very best with your future projects, mate. Thanks for being here.
That's brilliant, Brian. Thank you for having me. It's been a honour.
A massive thank you to Liam there from Perseverance Scenery for taking the time to be part of my first developer Q&A video, and what a brilliant job he's done on recreating this airfield. It is worth noting, a few days after the Q&A, Liam sent me some updates regarding the ongoing development of Sandtoft. As you can see by the pictures he sent, work has already begun on the bedrooms, the Airbnb section of the cafe. These are in development screenshots mine, so subject to change as the scenery is improved with more detail being added. Sandtoft Airfield is available from Sim Market for both Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024. But again, it is worth mentioning that although it is available for both simulators, further development and updates will only be made to the 2024 version. If you are interested in purchasing this airfield, I've popped a link in the description for both versions, and while you're down there, let me know your thoughts on Sandtoft Airfield in the comments. If you have enjoyed this video, why not give it a like, and please consider subscribing to the channel for more flight simulation content just like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon.